In the tech world, we talk constantly about latency.
Mm-hmm.
And usually it's about data transmission, how fast a packet gets from A to B without lag. But there's a human version of latency that we don't really talk about.
Oh, that split second,
Yeah.
that moment where you either secure the memory or you just let it
You
dissolve.
let it dissolve into the ether. Exactly.
Yeah.
And today, we're looking at a source that basically declares war on that human latency.
I like that.
We're unpacking a really fascinating blog post from qianmeng.org, dated today, February 16, 2026. And the author, Eng, calls himself an old software plumber.
Which is, I have to say, a deceptively modest title.
Right.
Because when you actually look at his output, he's less of a plumber and more of a heavily diversified systems architect. But what's so interesting about this post is it isn't about code.
No, it's about a fish.
A fish.
A fish, a camera, and a very specific constraint he calls the tiny thin wallet.
It sounds so small, like it sounds like a throwaway comment. But this deep dive is going to explore how that small constraint opens up this massive philosophy.
On what everyday carry?
On everyday carry, on the concept of digital gardening, and why maybe treating your life like an open source project might be the secret to, well, hyper-productivity.
So the mission today is to figure out how a guy who writes code for a living finds the same level of complexity in a fish tank.
And why he documents it with such religious consistency.
Okay, so let's jump right into the encounter.
Let's do it.
Set the scene for us. It's Monday, February 16, 2026. Eng is doing the domestic rounds.
The low bandwidth stuff.
Yeah, watering plants, feeding the aquarium.
Right. And usually this is autopilot time. I mean, we all have this mode, right? You're physically present, you're moving the watering can, dropping in fish flakes, but mentally.
Mentally, you're 3 hours in the future.
You're thinking about the next code commit or what's for lunch or that email you forgot to send.
But Eng stops. He breaks the autopilot. He spots a female epistogramma.
That's a dwarf cichlid for anyone who isn't an aquarium nerd.
Right, and she's peeking through a gap in the algae on the tank glass.
I want to pause on the algae for a second.
Okay.
It's a small detail in the text, but it tells us so much. This is not a sterile showroom tank where someone comes in and scrubs it with a toothbrush every day.
No, it's a living ecosystem.
It has algae, it has gaps, it feels lived in.
It implies a naturalistic setup, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the fish isn't swimming, she's just waiting.
Mm-hmm.
She's observing. So Eng reaches out and he taps the glass.
Now, standard biological programming says the fish should bolt.
Immediately.
That's a giant predator tapping on your house. The flight response should be, instant.
But she doesn't. The text says she refused to budge. She just holds his gaze.
A staring contest.
It's a staring contest. And this is where the software plumber brain switches gears. He doesn't just think, oh, that's cute. He recognizes a rare state change in the system.
The barrier between observer and observed has just dropped.
Exactly.
It's interesting you frame it that way, because I think most people would just keep walking.
For sure.
Oh, the fish is looking at me, cool, and then they move on to the next chore. So why does this specific moment matter so much to him?
It's about glimpses. That's the word he uses in the title. Tiny glimpses. In a highly technical, high-speed life, we are trained to filter out noise.
Mm-hmm.
A fish in the algae is usually noise.
But Eng has trained himself to recognize that sometimes the noise is actually the signal.
Yes.
That is the definition of mindfulness, really. It's the ability to be arrested by your immediate environment. But he doesn't just meditate on it. He doesn't just have a Zen moment and move on.
No. He immediately escalates to documentation.
He goes for the camera.
He writes, naturally, I immediately snapped a few shots of the encounter.
Naturally. That word does a lot of heavy lifting there.
It's a reflex for him.
It really is. And this brings us to the first major mental model of this piece, the philosophy of everyday carry, or EDC. Now, usually when you hear people talking about EDC online, they're talking about tactical knives, specific flashlights.
Maybe a multi-tool can get a little prepper.
A little prepper, exactly. It's usually about being prepared for a disaster.
Mm-hmm.
But for Eng, EDC isn't about disaster prep. It's about memory prep. The camera is a non-negotiable utility, just like his keys or his wallet.
He makes a point to say these aren't like National Geographic award-winning photos.
Not at all.
He calls them simple, everyday photos. But then he says something that really struck me. He claims they are the reason he indulges in the hobby.
Which feels backward.
It seems backward, doesn't it? Shouldn't the hobby be the reason for the photos?
You would think so.
Right.
But But consider the feedback loop. If you don't photograph the tank is just a chore. You clean it, you feed the fish, you ignore it, it becomes background noise.
Right.
By photographing it, you force yourself to look closer. The camera isn't just a recording device, it's an attention-forcing mechanism.
So the camera is the tool that converts the chore into art.
Precisely. And the critical factor here is availability. Eng talks about tiny glimpses, timeless lessons. The lesson is that the glimpse is fleeting. If his camera was in a padded bag buried in the closet, the epistogramma would have swum away before he even unzipped the case.
So the best camera is the one that's already in your hand.
Or your pocket. It effectively reduces the capture friction to zero. If you have to think about getting the camera, you've already lost the shot.
That latency we talked about at the beginning.
The physical distance of the camera is the latency.
However, this brings up attention in the post.
Yeah.
I mean, he values the capture, but he's also a tech guy. He clearly loves the gear. He admits he's on an ongoing quest for the perfect setup.
And here we see the engineer's mindset just colliding with reality. He has a requirements list.
Oh, yeah.
He wants a camera that is lightweight, fast, and high quality.
The holy trinity of engineering.
And usually in any engineering discipline, whether it's software, structural, optical, you can only pick two.
It's the iron triangle.
Yep. You want fast and high quality. It's going to be heavy and expensive. You want lightweight and fast. The sensor quality usually suffers.
And Eng adds a fourth constraint that just blows the whole equation up.
He does.
He says it has to fit a tiny, thin wallet.
Which he admits, unfortunately, excludes most gears.
It's a humorous line, but it's also a very real creative constraint. I think a lot of listeners can relate to that.
Oh, absolutely.
We often use the thin wallet as an excuse not to start, right? We say, oh, I'll start a podcast when I can afford the really nice mic, or I'll start photography when I can get the Leica.
That's the gear acquisition syndrome trap. It's a form of procrastination disguised as preparation. But Eng is flipping that. The tiny, thin wallet isn't a blocker, it's a filter. It forces him to prioritize. If he can't buy the $5,000 camera that does everything, he has to find the cheaper tool that does the one thing he needs.
Availability.
Availability.
It forces him to rely on skill and timing rather than...
That raw specs, exactly. If you have a limitation, you have to compensate with observation. You have to be patient.
Just wait for the fish to stare at you.
You do, because you don't have the $3,000 autofocus lens that can catch it moving at high speed, so the constraint actually deepens the engagement with the subject.
That is such a crucial point. The constraint makes you a better observer.
Yes.
Let's zoom out a bit then. We're analyzing this one post about a fish, but to really understand the timeless lesson here, we have to look at who Eng is, because calling him a software plumber just feels like a massive undersell.
It's a humble brag, for sure.
Yeah.
When we looked at the sidebar and metadata of the site to prep for this, my jaw hit the floor. This isn't a blog. It's a repository.
The list of topics is just dizzying. On one hand, you have the hardcore tech, Haskell, Elixir, Erlang, Rust, Go.
And these are not script kiddie languages. These are heavy functional programming systems used for building massive fail-safe infrastructure. This is serious back-end engineering. This is the plumbing of the internet.
Right. But then sitting right next to notes on Rust, you have notes on gardening, notes on fish keeping, notes on meditation, notes on typesetting.
It's a true polymath's portfolio. But the thing that shocked me wasn't the variety, it was the volume.
Oh, the stats are wild. The source says this post was published on February 16th, 2026. How many posts had he logged just in that month?
As of the 16th, he had posted 48 times.
Wait, let me do the math. That's 3 posts a day.
On average, yes. And looking back, this isn't a sprint. In 2025, he posted 730 times.
730.
In 2024, 732 times.
That is exactly 2 posts a day, every single day, for years.
It is incredible discipline. And it changes how we interpret the fish post, right? This isn't just a guy who randomly decided to blog one day because he felt inspired.
No, this is a person who documents everything.
He has built a massive searchable database of his own life.
We hear the term digital garden thrown around a lot in certain circles. Is that what this is?
This is absolutely what this is. Think about the difference between a garden and a stream. A stream like Twitter or Instagram, it just flows past you.
Right.
If you miss a tweet, it's gone downstream. It's ephemeral.
Yeah.
A garden is spatial. You plant something, you come back to it, you prune it, you watch it grow. Eng isn't just blogging, he is building an external database of his brain.
And he treats every data point as equal. That's what I love. You look at his recent titles, Notes on Photography is right next to Notes on Haskell Programming, Part 50,
Fixing type.
followed by Notes on Fish Keeping, Part 195, Relocating My Jewel to Cichlit.
I love that juxtaposition, refactoring code and relocating a fish. To him, they're the same activity.
They're both about managing systems.
Exactly. They are both about observation and adjustment.
It's a very open source way to live, isn't it?
It is. The source explicitly mentions he supports the EFF, the FSF, and Wikipedia. He clearly believes in the free exchange of information, but he's applying that ethos to his personal experience. He's open sourcing his learning curve.
Which is scary for most people. We usually only want to show the finished product,
The compiled code.
the perfect aquarium, the edited photo. Aang is showing us the bugs.
He's showing the DIS, to use a coding term, the incremental changes. And that brings us back to the plumber identity. A plumber fixes leaks. They connect pipes to ensure flow.
And Aang is connecting the pipes of his knowledge.
The discipline required to debug a line of Haskell code is the exact same discipline required to maintain a balanced aquarium ecosystem.
And the patience required to grow a dwarf powder puff plant, which he also logs, is the same patience required to wait for the apistogramma to peek out of the algae.
Everything informs everything else. That is the superpower of the polymath. By documenting the tiny glimpses in the fish tank, he's likely sharpening the observational skills he uses to find bugs in his software. It's a holistic training program.
So when he says tiny glimpses, timeless lessons, the timeless lesson isn't just carry a camera.
No, not at all. The lesson is that high-value insights are hiding in low-value moments.
Can you unpack that a bit?
Sure, most people wait for the big event to create content or to learn something.
The conference, the vacation.
The crisis, the new job. We think that's where the content of our life is. Aang proves that if you lower your threshold for what is interesting, you have an infinite supply of material.
Because he posts twice a day, he can't wait for big events. He has to find value in the algae.
Exactly. The volume forces the insight. If you have a self-imposed quota that you must write 2 notes today and nothing happened in your life, you have to look at your fish.
And because you look at your fish, you have a moment of connection.
And because you capture it, you have a timeless lesson.
It's a manufacturing process for meaning.
That's a beautiful way to put it.
Yeah.
Yes, he is manufacturing meaning out of the mundane. And the tiny, thin wallet is actually an asset in this process.
How so?
It keeps him grounded. It keeps the game difficult enough to be interesting. If he could just buy the perfect solution, if he could buy a fully automated aquarium and a robot camera, he stops being a plumber. He starts being a consumer.
And consumers don't usually create digital gardens.
No, they just consume streams.
Right.
Aang is a creator, down to his core, even if what he's creating is just a log entry about a fish staring contest. He is adding to the repository.
There's also something to be said about the format. It's a blog. It's not a social media thread. It's his own platform.
That's crucial. He owns the data. He isn't renting space on someone else's server. That connects back to the old software plumber vibe. It feels very old school internet, doesn't it?
It does. It feels intimate. Yours truly. It's like a ship's log.
But the ship is just one guy's life navigating through the year 2026. And notice the title of the blog post again, Tiny Glimpses, Timeless Lessons. The glimpse is the input. The lesson is the output.
And the camera and the blog are the processing machine in the middle.
Exactly.
It makes me think about how much data I lose every day. Just sensory data. Moments I see, thoughts I have, and they just evaporate because I don't have that capture habit.
We all do. We are leaking data constantly. Aang has just built a bucket to catch it. And because he catches it, he can look back at it. He can search it. He can say, what was I thinking about on February 16th, 2024? And he has an answer.
Whereas for me, February 16, 2024 is just a blank void.
Right. A blank void.
Wow. This has been a fascinating look into a very specific, very disciplined world. We started with a fish refusing to move.
And we ended up with a philosophy for lifelong learning.
We covered the everyday carry mindset, the availability beats specs.
We looked at the iron triangle of gear and why constraints breed creativity. And we explored the digital garden, where a software plumber treats his life like an open source project.
The core truth for me is that the camera or the notebook or the blog, it isn't just for recording history, it's for changing how you see the present.
It turns you from a passive NPC, non-player character in your own life, into an active observer. You stop just executing scripts and start reading the code.
So here is our provocation for you, the listener. You almost certainly have a camera within reach right now. It's probably the phone you're listening to this on.
And you probably have a tiny, thin wallet constraint of your own. Maybe it's not money, maybe it's time, maybe it's energy.
Don't let that stop you. What is the tiny glimpse you are ignoring today? What is the epistogramma hiding in the algae of your daily routine?
Is it the way the light hits your desk at 4 p.m.? Is it a weird bug in your code that keeps coming back? Is it a snippet of conversation you overheard at the coffee shop?
Don't wait for the perfect gear. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Take the shot, write the note, ship the update.
Start your own garden. Even if the only thing growing in it is weeds at first, just start logging.
A huge thanks to the old software plumber, Aang, for the inspiration today. Keep tinkering, keep gardening, and keep those notes coming. We'll be watching the feed, all 730 posts of it.
Absolutely.
That's it for this deep dive. Keep your eyes open. We'll catch you in the next one.